I'm 3 casinos. That's
and
just,
fish.
And fish. That's about right. Yeah. Let's not leave him in Las Vegas. He's not going to do anything.
Right.
And I hope they will make do something about it.
Yeah.
So those are the Loney's. Dave, you want to talk about Ramirez a little bit?
Yeah, so kind of a broken record. We devoted an entire supplementary episode to Christian Ramirez's trade.
Yes.
If you haven't listened to episode 11.2, go back and listen to it because I think it was a good one.
I listened to it, even though I wasn't on it.
We're a little biased.
Thanks, Tony.
It was really good without Tony. I'm just kidding.
What?
I'm kidding.
No,
No, we missed you, Tony. We did.
yeah,
We did.
I missed it. Yeah.
I got to see Dave's house.
Yeah. It's
My
the first
townhouse.
It's
too.
townhouse, yeah.
So I was, I've mentioned this multiple times on the podcast. I like to get into these discussions. Some might view them as arguments on Twitter over, who's really at fault for our performance over the last 2 seasons. Who's at fault for, Miguel Ibarra not being overly happy going into this season. Christian Ramirez not being traded.
So, as continuing your thread, saying who's at fault, because that's the way most supporters feel this decision was.
Yes.
We made a mistake.
Well,
so, who's at fault for this
Yes,
trade?
that's true. Good point. If it wasn't a mistake, no one would think it was that fault.
Yeah.
So most people are blaming Adrian Heath for this, so I got onto this conversation with a couple people, and it started pushing me towards doing some research on it, on how we come to where we are, where Christian Ramirez fit in. And so it initially started with this discussion of whose plan was it to have a 3-year plan.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, I'm going to go back. I'm going to Google, and I'm going to try to figure out, can I find any news articles kind of pinpointing whose idea this was to have a soft launch 3-year plan. Mm-hmm. And I went back and I found a news article, November 2016. It was 55-1, written by Jeff Ruder, who's now with The Athletic. And it was kind of the announcement of Adrian Heath.
Yeah.
And in there, they kind of had a little bit of an interview with Heath. And Heath mentioned how he spoke with Dr. McGuire, and I would imagine this was part of his interview process. And they discussed McGuire's plan for the team and found out that, their ideas kind of meshed with each other. Mm-hmm. So it's like, okay, so this 3-year plan. Sorry, I'm doing bunny ears. I realize no one can see that.
He is, I can.
Maybe originated with either Heath or McGuire, but regardless, clearly both were on the same page.
Yeah.
So maybe we can't put a blame on that or blame for that on anybody. But what I found interesting in that article was something that wasn't actually in the body of the article. It was a sidebar quotation from Adrian Heath, and I'm paraphrasing this one. So anybody that wants to fact check me on this, again, it's November 2016 55-1 article. Adrian Heath basically says that he was confident that Amos McGee and Manny Lagos would find the players necessary to be competitive. Mm-hmm. So I point this quote out because it tells me that Adrian Heath is depending on Manny Lagos to find him players to be competitive.
Yep.
And so keep that in your brain as I go through this. So last season, we fast forward, Christian Ramirez was 5th in minutes. Mm-hmm. He missed 4 games, a significant portion of a 5th game because of that injury. Mm-hmm. And with that, you calculate, okay, let's say he played 70, 80 minutes of all 4 of those games.
Yep.
Or even the 5th game.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, he actually moves up to 3rd, maybe 2nd on the roster in minutes. So at that point, to me, I look at it from my experience. The vast majority of players that command the significant amount of minutes are defenders first because they have less play. I mean, they just have less to do, so they usually can maintain more minutes in the season. And Jerome Tiasson led the team in minutes last year, and then Calvo was third on the team. And then also those kind of midfield, those mainstay midfield players. And guess what? Ibsen was second in minutes.
Go figure.
So, and then Molino was fourth in minutes. And here Christian Ramirez is in fifth. And I'm like, okay, so he missed 4.5 games due to injury. Adrian Heath played him as much as Adrian Heath should have ever played a forward. So to me, there was a quote that came out earlier this month, or I guess maybe late July. It was like an aunt. I mentioned this, I think, in our 11.2 episode. An aunt of Christian Ramirez who said, Adrian Heath never really liked Christian. He didn't play him that much. Guess what? Adrian Heath actually played Christian Ramirez.
Played him a lot.
Far more than he probably had to.
Yeah.
And so, fast forward to this season. So, Ramirez saw a significant decline in his minutes. He actually, as of his trade, he was 7th on the team. But we had an issue where he injured his ankle. I believe it was the first game. Because Dunladi went out in the 30th minute, I think, with an injury. And I feel like it was second half of the first game. Christian went down with an injury. I could be wrong. Might have been the second game, but I'm pretty sure it was the first game. Because I just remember, oh my God, Abu just got injured, and now Christian's injured. And he stayed in the game.
Yep. I want to say this before I'm fascinated by what you're saying because it's all so true. But what if, and this is a huge what if because it obviously happened, but what if, when we were watching the first, MLS game, what if, on the road, but what if Christian Ramirez didn't score the first goal for United? And he did. He came on as a sub and scored the first goal. Yeah. What if that never happened? He didn't start that game, but he came in on as a sub and scored the first goal in the MLS history for the Loons. Do you think the story changes, or was that just...
No.
I don't know.
I think there might have been something.
I don't think so, because I think that in the beginning of the Loons...
So why wasn't he on... I guess what I'm asking is, he wasn't on the first game of the Loons MLS history. He was not in the starting...
I had read that it was a preseason issue.
Okay, and it may have been.
Yeah, I don't know that for a fact.
And I have a feeling that starting with the Loons, having Ramirez and Ibarra in there was one of their key things they wanted to do, because they wanted the fans who had seen them pre-MLS to be involved in this team. And they did.
Yeah, I think Christian at some point would have come in as a sub and showed Adrian that he needed to be on.
I think it just makes, we'll continue on your point, David, but I think it's part of the sting of the trade is just knowing that not only is he the face of the franchise, he scored the first goal.
Yeah, right.
And it's tough, but
point taken, definitely. So going to that, he saw a reduction in his minutes this season. Again, he had that injury. He did miss 2 games this season due to injury. I don't recall if it was the same injury though. So you had those minutes, but he personally said that ankle injury impacted his play. So I think it's pretty safe to assume that injury impacted how many minutes he got early on in the season. With that said, even still, he wouldn't have moved up the list too much. So there is always that to keep in mind. The big thing for me is that he didn't actually not start a game until Seattle.
Yep.
When we all know probably why he didn't start. There's a trade deal in place.
Yes, exactly.
But even still, last season, Adrian didn't start him against Seattle because he felt that Christian Ramirez's play wasn't right play for Seattle's defense. Mm-hmm. So you could say, all right, maybe he was sat because of the trade, but maybe he was sat because Adrian Heath still felt the same way in terms of his play.
Yeah.
And so then you go on, and after the drubbing by Vancouver, 4-2 in Vancouver, Adrian Heath made a statement that essentially you can't take this any other way than saying he was like, we do not have the quality to compete. Mm-hmm. And we need better players. And I had posted on Twitter, I posted a picture of my Adrian Heath gnome with a sign around his neck saying Manny out. And I said, look, our manager is begging for players.
Yep.
And he's obviously not getting them. What's interesting is, by this point, Romario and Angelo had already been signed.
Yep.
So even at that point, he's like, I still need players. So it's not the fact that Christian Ramirez isn't doing his job. It's the fact that somebody else on this team isn't up to par. And he's saying, I need more players. Even though you signed Angelo Rodriguez, that's not the answer. I need more players. So move on to last week. Ramirez scores 2 goals against Real Salt Lake, which, by the way, he's had a brace against Real Salt Lake twice or 3 times now.
Yeah.
Leave that for what it is. And Megan Ryan, the day after, Megan Ryan from the Strip, met up with Adrian Heath after practice, and she asked him, what do you think about the fact that he scored 2 goals? And Adrian's response was fantastic. I thought it was super classy. He praised Christian Ramirez and his skills and abilities. But the point that really stuck out to me was this quote. So this is quote unquote, I must have said it 50 times last year. If we can give him enough opportunities in the box, he will score goals, and I think he'll get that there. Mm-hmm. Now, to me, that doesn't sound like a guy that didn't like Christian Ramirez.
No.
It doesn't sound like a guy who didn't play Christian Ramirez because he didn't like how he played. It sounds like a guy that said, look, front office, you fucked up. Mm-hmm. You didn't give me the players that I asked for back in 2016. Mm-hmm. You didn't give me the players that I asked for in 2017. You haven't given me the players I asked for after Vancouver. Mm-hmm. This is completely on you. Christian Ramirez is a good player. If he had the service he needed, he would have succeeded here. And so, to me, it says this is not Adrian Heath's fault that he was traded. So, whose fault is it? This is the...
You know whose fault it
And
is.
we talk. You know, you can talk about a small sample size and what we've seen from Rodriguez, but here's a small sample size. Christian Ramirez in LAFC scoring 2 goals in his second game.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And he was in the right place at the right time, but that's what he does. Inside 18 yards, he's there.
And on top of that,
They're
in the
mid-
20 minutes he played in his first game, he had 2 shots.
And a near miss.
Yeah.
A very near miss. I don't know if you saw the replays on Twitter, but he had a header opportunity that was so close. But and LAFC, their midfield is obviously phenomenal.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And they're going to put him in that position. And
exactly. Right.
Is he making the most of the opportunity with the injury? Of course.
Yeah.
But he's there. He's playing and he's scoring goals.
Again, with Christian Ramirez being traded, and I haven't talked about this on this podcast yet because I haven't had a chance to. I see 2 things. Christian Ramirez is the United. Okay, we all loved Christian back in the days before they were in MLS. Okay, when they were in NASL, we loved Christian. Okay, we all thought of him as the best player that we had. Him and Ibarra. That was the deal, right? Those are the 2 guys we think about with this team.
It's why you went to
the games
right.
Exactly right.
3 or 4 years ago.
So it's tough to trade a guy who has been with your team for 5 years now. Has been 5 years or 4?
Yeah, 14. Well, it's still 4 years,
okay,
but 4 and a half, close to 5.
So you watch this guy for 4 years, and you think about him as this is your team, this is your guy, right? So you end up trading him, and everybody gets pissed off about it.